What is an experience you had at a courthouse that you'll never forget? I was 26 and my little sister had just turned 18. She was in college for all of 2 months before she called me sobbing, saying she needed a lawyer. I didn't ask questions. I just drove 5 hours straight to her campus, picked her up, and drove us both to our hometown courthouse the next morning. She wouldn't tell me what happened at first, just kept saying, "I didn't mean to. I didn't know." Her hands were shaking the whole drive. I figured it was a speeding ticket, maybe a fake ID situation, something dumb but fixable. When we got there, the clerk handed us paperwork and said, "Room 203, family court." That's when I realized this wasn't about her. It was about our dad. She finally broke down and told me everything. Our dad had listed her as a co-signer on a lease without her knowledge. Not just any lease, a lease for a house he had trashed. He stopped paying rent 6 months ago. The landlord was suing for damages, and since she was technically on the lease, she was liable. 18 years old, just started college, and already facing $12,000 in damages because our dad wanted to avoid background checks. We waited outside the courtroom for 2 hours. She was chewing her thumbnail, bouncing her knee, trying not to cry. Then our dad showed up, sunglasses indoors, no tie, no apology. He strolled in and said, "You girls worry too much. This'll be cleared up in 5 minutes." I wanted to scream. He sat down next to her like nothing had happened, tried to make jokes. "Hey, remember when you were little and used to draw on the walls? Maybe you did the damage." She didn't laugh. When they called her name, I stood up too. Our dad said, "You don't need to go in there. It's a misunderstanding." I looked him dead in the eye. "You're right, and I'm about to make sure they understand exactly who caused it." The judge was an older woman. Sharp. No nonsense. My sister barely got 2 words out before she started crying. I had to step in and explain everything. How our dad forged her signature. How she never lived at that address. How she didn't even know it existed until last week when she got served. The landlord brought photos, holes in the drywall, broken windows, garbage bags stacked to the ceiling. One picture showed a raccoon inside the kitchen. I watched my sister shrink into herself as the judge flipped through the pages. Then she looked up and asked our dad, "Do you deny listing your daughter on the lease?" He leaned back, shrugged, and said, "She's family. I thought it'd be easier if I used her name." The courtroom went silent. The judge asked my sister one question. "Did you ever sign this lease?" My sister shook her head no, eyes full of tears. The judge nodded, turned to our dad, and said, "You're aware that forging a legal document is a criminal offense?" His smirk vanished. The judge dismissed the landlord's claim against my sister entirely and advised them to pursue our father separately for damages. As we stood up to leave, our dad reached out and said, "Hey, no hard feelings, right?" My sister flinched. I stepped between them and said, "If I ever see you near her again, I'll have you in front of a real judge next time." Walking out of that courthouse, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Thank you for believing me." But what she didn't know was, I wasn't just protecting her, I was forgiving myself. Because when we were kids, I used to make excuses for him. I used to cover for him. I used to believe the lies. But that day, in that courtroom, I finally told the truth. Not just to the judge, but to myself. That some people will never change. And it's not your job to fix them.